What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 10 of Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts, where we analyze the goal market for a lot of the top matches of the day throughout the entire world. Today is Friday, September 6th. We're going to provide a quick overview of the Nations League. We're going to look at fixtures yesterday. We're also going to look at fixtures today and tomorrow before we jump into a best bet in the Netherlands, and then we'll open up the floor to anybody who has any questions for matches this weekend. It's tough sledding out there, so we're trying to be very picky and choosy and try not to overdo it. So, without further ado, let's take a look at yesterday's action. Spain finished 22 shots with an EXG of 1.39, 0 goals. They had plenty of chances, they couldn't get there. Obviously, you saw that rust of getting the team back together. You had Portugal and Croatia, who we discussed yesterday. Yes, Croatia scored, but they scored on an own goal. So it was against the run of play. Diogo Dalot scored on both ends, getting that to a 2-1, but there were 0 goals in that second half, so that's something to notate. Denver and Swiss, I notated that Switzerland looked like the better team yesterday. They got beat 2-0. Well, they were the better team for the first half until they got that early second half red card. And then Denmark pressured, was able to score 2 in the end. And then you had Scotland and Poland. Absolutely 0 defense. Poland came out, got goals at the start. Scotland looked as porous as ever. They scored at home. Poland looks to be pretty susceptible. That might be a team you want to target on both ends. But then you have Slovakia. They had over a 2-0 EXG and only 1 goal versus Estonia. So it's not necessarily, these matches right now are very, very tricky, and you want to be very picky about which ones you choose. Yesterday, we took a live bet against Sweden and Azerbaijani. Tons of chances, almost a 2-0 EXG in the first half and 0 goals. It was wide open, so we gambled on that. That might be a way that you want to approach a lot of these matches this weekend if you're going to look at them at all. Let's jump into tomorrow and look at 2 matches that I think have some interest in the Nations League. So we've looked at those past ones. We're going to look at tomorrow. I'm not going to place any of these bets, full disclosure, because I'm going to be out of town this weekend. These are just matches you want to look at live, and you'll see why. Georgia, they are playing Czechia, and they come in scoring in 24 of their last 29 matches, regular production. They've conceded in 14 of their last 19. The only ones who they didn't score or concede against: Cyprus, Luxembourg, Greece, Thailand, 4 not very good squads, and a Portugal squad when they were already qualified. That matters because there's less motivation there. Other than that, conceding in just about every match. They've hit both teams to score over 2.5 in the last 20 of 25 that hit both teams to score. So if you think they're going to hit both teams to score, there's an opportunity there for that over and a half as well. But you look at Czechia, they've scored in 10 straight and 18 of their last 20 matches. They've got regular production. They've got a really strong squad top to bottom. But defensively, they're not the best team in the world, which leaves opportunities on that both teams to score end. They've conceded in 12 of their last 14 matches. The 2 that they didn't were Moldova and Faroe Islands, not necessarily great offensive powerhouses. They've hit over 2.5 in 7 of their last 8 matches coming into this. Both teams to score hit in the previous matchup against one another when they face each other in the Euros. Finished 1-1 with Georgia at home to Czechia. But if you look at the EXG and the stats of how that game played out, it might tell you a little different story than what that 1-1 finish was. Georgia scored or maintained just over a 1.0 EXG, but they had a penalty kick, which is a 0.75 EXG each time, which means they only had 0.25 EXG outside of their one really big opportunity. Czechia, on the other hand, they only scored 1 goal, but they massively underperformed. They had an EXG of above 3.00. So it looks on paper that Czechia were having their way with them. I remember watching this game and being shocked that they couldn't get above that line. Missed a lot of opportunities. I think Czechia wins this game. I think they score multiple goals. I wouldn't be surprised seeing the BTTS hit or the over 2.5, but I wouldn't want to put any money on this game until I see those lineups. Right now we have massive rotation. In the Belgium game today, we the lineups were announced, and I saw that there is no Trossard, there's no Lukaku. So some of that front line is going to be different. They'll be playing with Openda, maybe a Luka Bacchio. There's a number of other people they'll be inserting, which, yes, Israel's not that great, but it could take them a little bit of time to score. And you've kind of seen that with the live game that's happening now. Norway went 0-0. They've had chances, but they have weak chances. Kazakhstan is not defensively sound, but Norway's not creating enough chances. Sometimes it takes these teams halves games to get really into their camaraderie. So be mindful in these first games. Maybe look to attack on the second fixture of the weekend, which does start to take place on Sunday. Another match I want to highlight is Armenia and Latvia, which I put up here. Armenia can't keep a clean sheet. They are one of the regular people you see both home and away having a hard time not conceding. 21 straight regularity. They do score in 13 of their last 19, which is okay. It's around 66% scoring. They're at home, so it gives them a better edge to score. But Latvia, they've scored in 18 of their last 25, which is around the same mark as what Armenia is scoring in. They've conceded in 16 of their 18. Both teams are pretty shambolic defensively, but offensively, not necessarily that great. A lot of times you do see a BTTS in this type of fixture because neither are really great at keeping the ball out of the net, so eventually they concede. The last time Armenia played Latvia dominated them at a 2-0 victory at home. The previous time before that, when Latvia was playing away, Armenia was at home. It went 2-1, but Latvia looked like the better team. So I'm not necessarily sure what's going to happen. If you see consistent pressure from both sides, the BTTS would be a great play to drop into live. Now, having said all of that, there's a couple interesting matches that we also could look into, but there's no reason to overextend yourself this weekend, especially in the international market. As we explained with what happened yesterday, there's a lot of issues that could pop up that could prevent you from having a nice easy cash. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to head over into Netherlands' second division for a matchup this afternoon, because I think that we could still provide some value here. Oof, this name's tough. In the Netherlands second division, it's De Graafschap, which is Degraafschap, something like that. They've scored in 20 of their last 22. It's the only match today in the Netherlands too, so you should be able to find it. They've conceded in 10 straight and 18 of their last 19 coming into today. They've also hit over 2.5 goals in 15 of their last 16. That's regular production on both ends. Now they're at home. They're taking on an FC Eindhoven team who scored in 8 of their last 10 matches coming into this, and they've conceded in 24 of their last 29, which is good production. But then you look at the matchup history, so we want to make sure that, yeah, it looks good on that side, but then how do they play one another? Well, the last 7 of 9 matches hit both teams to score. The last 4 of 5 matches hit over 2.5 goals. Today, since those lines are hovering around minus 200, we're going to have to parlay those together. And we're comfortable with that parlay of the BTTS and the over 2.5 because De Graafschap has not only hit both teams to score at over 2.5 in all 4 of their matches this season, they've actually hit over 3.5 goals in 8 straight matches. So I expect goals. I expect them from both ends, mostly because neither can keep a clean sheet, and the Graafschap likes to hit that over. So we're going to take those two numbers, parlay them together, both teams to score in over 2.5, and that gives us a minus 130. Thanks again for coming to our 10th episode of Shots on Target. Ready to conclude this week of international break. We'll be back on Monday from a different location, coming in, looking at the matches on Monday, and starting to get prepared for next week's league action. Thanks again for coming. Gator fan, Russell Johnson, Brad Morris, as you guys are always here supporting, appreciating. I appreciate you more than you know. Thanks again. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday.